Hi guys, I'm Kasha and welcome to Camp Crystal Lake. Just kidding, welcome to another book and movie horror recommendation.
It's coffee time!
Every summer I try to give you guys some book recommendations, movie recommendations. If you're looking for something that it is particularly good to read or watch during summer season, even though, to be honest, any type of story goes. I just recently read a story that could be better suited for the fall, but I really enjoyed it, so it doesn't matter. Also, depending on where you live, summer might not be happening right now, so I apologize for that. But here in the Netherlands, finally, the sun has made an appearance and it seems like it's here to stay for now. So I'm very grateful that we're finally starting summer in the middle of June. You know, better too late than never. So I thought, why not sit down, put together a list of 6 books and 6 movies that I think are perfect for summer. Of course, they're all horrors or thrillers and they vary in intensity as well. There's some things here that might be for the more experienced horror readers that can take some more disturbing stories, and other ones that are more relaxed to take on holidays to read by the pool. Same with the movies. Some movies are for everybody and other ones might be a little bit intense. So without further ado, let's check those 6 books and 6 movies. To warm up a little bit, we are going to start with a book that it is kind of like a psychological mystery thriller. It is YA, and this is one of those that you can take with you on holidays because it is a great book to read while you are, on vacation, and that is Cruel Summer by Juno Dawson. Let me add that this twisty mystery thriller does have some romance in it, so keep that in mind if that's something that you're not really interested in. It's basically a mystery thriller about a group of friends that is reconnecting during a holiday in Spain and secrets will come alive. Basically, we follow a group of friends that it is kind of rekindling their relationship while they're on a holiday in Spain at a beautiful villa, and of course secrets from their past are gonna come to light. A year after their best friend's suicide, a group of friends decide that it is a time to get back together, enjoy some holiday in Spain, and the problem is that when they get to the villa and they just want to reconnect and forget about the past, but they are forced to relive the past because that might be the only thing that can save them. While they're in the villa, the topic, of the tragic suicide of their friend comes up, and as they are forced kind of to talk about it and discuss it, they're going to realize that there are a lot of secrets involving that incident of that specific night. In fact, one of the friends that it is there right now in the villa might be responsible for it. The story is told through multiple POVs, so you get to hear the story from different characters, different friends. So you're gonna hear them talk about what happened that night from their own perspective, so you can kind of figure out, hearing all of their stories, what actually happened to their friend. It's one of those mystery thrillers where there might be a killer in that room and you have to figure out who is it, and is everybody else in danger? Is somebody else gonna die? So it's one of those kind of murder mysteries, and I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a quick read and I think it's perfect for summer. The next one is a YA mystery as well, and I don't know if many people know about this one, so that's why I wanted to mention it. It's called Dreadful Sorry by Katherine, and I've never heard people talking about it, so I thought I would bring it up here. Molly had an accident and she almost drowned at a pool party. So after that, Molly developed this irrational fear of water and, getting into water and swimming. And even though her mom and her swim coach have been encouraging her and trying to help her to kind of, beat that fear of water, they have not really been successful. So Molly decides she wants to, get away from her mom and her swim instructor this summer, and she decides to go with her father and her stepmom because they just bought a new house, they're kind of renovating it, they want to turn it into a bed and breakfast, so she decides that might be a better environment for her right now. But as soon as Molly gets into their new home that they are renovating, she starts to realize that she's getting these nightmares and visions about things that she shouldn't know about, things from the past, things about a disappearance, and things that might actually explain her fear of water. The story really picks up when Molly goes to her father's house. Before that is a little bit slow, but as soon as she gets there, the story really does pick up, and she realizes that the house from her nightmares is actually the house that her dad just bought. This book takes place in a small town, and it's one of those charming small towns where you would like to go and visit and get to know the people that live there, you know, kind of like Stars Hollow. Like, you just want to go there. And this story is about family and love, and there's a lot of, you know, added things to the story. It's not just the mystery of it all, but I thought I would mention it because this is a YA mystery that I haven't heard many people talk about. And now we're moving to the adult section here, and the first one that I wanted to mention is Daphne by Josh Malerman. This is one of the books by Josh Malerman that I have enjoyed the most, and actually I think this is perfect for summer, and if you missed on that release, now it might be time for you to pick it up. We are again in a small town here, and all small towns have legends, mysteries that are unsolved. And one of them is the mystery, the legend of Daphne. We follow a basketball team that decides to do a big sleepover before they have their big game. And when they do, they think it's a great idea to tell each other horror stories, right? Things you do for funsies. And one of the players brings up the story of Daphne. Daphne was apparently killed, and she's still hunting the town, and rumor says if you say her name, she will get attached to you and she will come hunt you and kill you. After hearing the story, the girls on the basketball team cannot stop thinking about it. They become obsessed with it, and perhaps that obsession is gonna get them in trouble. I really enjoyed the different characters, learning about the different girls. One of the girls has anxiety, and I thought that was really well portrayed here as well. And I love the fact that they use like a basketball hoop kind of like as an oracle to help them make decisions. I thought it was such a fun twist to the story. And this book is going to be perfect for people that love urban legends and stuff like that, you know, like Candyman, Bloody Mary, because we all know that after these girls started hearing about Daphne, somebody probably called her name, and what happened afterwards, you'll have to see. Next we have The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Now, I think this is perfect for people that like kind of suburban thrillers with a little bit more of horror added to it, and it's actually one of those Grady Hendrix books that I thought was kind of like a very slow burn, but the ending really did pay off for me. It is a supernatural thriller that takes place in a suburban area in the 90s where the women there have a book club and they all meet, you know, to talk about the books they're reading, and then they kind of become obsessed with a new neighbor that they just got, and they think that he's dangerous, that he's keeping a secret. Might he be a vampire? They don't know. So it's kind of like, you know, Desperate Housewives meets, I don't know, vampires. So I really enjoy the concept of this book. So Patricia lives there with her husband and her kids, and her life is kind of like unfulfilled. It's not really the life that she hoped for, and she feels a little bit like without purpose, but then she finds the book club and that becomes her life and she becomes obsessed with it. And when the new neighbor moves in, that is her new thing, that is a new mystery that she's determined to solve. Patricia realizes that after this really attractive, mysterious new neighbor moves into the neighborhood, children start to go missing. Like, what is going on? So she's like, I need to solve this mystery. And we also learn about her issues with, you know, her marriage and motherhood and all of that. But it's also a lot about the thrilling mystery about this mysterious neighbor. Now, don't expect this to be like a super wow mystery thriller moment. I think a lot of the things in the book are fairly predictable, but I just think the story was fun, the characters were fun, and it is perfect for summer. I think, you know, one of those suburban thrillers. And also, you have to figure out what's wrong with the neighbor. Is he really a vampire? Are these women just tripping? So I did enjoy it, but keep in mind that it is fairly chunky in the sense that a lot of things happen that are a little bit more slow at the beginning until it really catches up in the second act. Next we have Kin by Kellen Burke. And he just released actually the prequel to this this month of June called Cottonmouth. So if you already read Kin, you can go ahead and get the prequel. So this is a 2-in-1, 2-for-1 recommendation. And Kin is for those that are ready for a little bit more messed up story, right? Because this is a book that I always compare to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We are in a really hot summer in Alabama and we follow Claire. Claire is the only survival of a vicious attack and basically all her friends are dead except of her. So we get to know her at the very beginning. She's half naked, barefoot, kind of walking on the road, a little bit disoriented after the worst night of her life. And we kind of start to learn what happened to her and why she's in this state. It was named the Elkwood Massacre, and as I said, all of her friends died and she was the only survivor. How did she manage to survive? We will have to see. After everything that happened to her, she has been kind of dreaming of revenge. To go back and seek revenge on those that did this to her and to her friends, which is basically similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the sense that it is also kind of like a family of lunatics that are doing this to people. So it is very similar to that, or The Hills Have Eyes, or Wrong Turn, you know, that kind of vibe. It's kind of like an exploration of the aftermath and what would happen to a final girl if she would decide later on to come back to the place where everything happened and seek revenge. The story is told from multiple people's point of view as well, so multiple perspectives, and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of gory beats, obviously a lot of blood, keep that in mind. This is kind of like intense on the horror level, but this is definitely one of those that are perfect for summer. And the last book that I would like to recommend you is None Shall Sleep by Ernie, Marne. This is basically a psychological thriller about a couple of teenagers are helping the FBI to solve some murder cases. So exactly, it sounds fun. In 1982, two teenagers that survived the attack of a serial killer are kind of hired by the FBI to interview potential juvenile killers and suspects, as well as to review with them some cold cases. So the two teenagers are Emma and Travis, and they become good friends, you know, after everything that they had to go through, and they're having fun helping the FBI to crack all the cases and, you know, try to figure out what happened. And the thing is that things start to go wrong when they assist the FBI with an ongoing active investigation of a serial killer, because that specific serial killer targets teenagers. So I'm pretty sure, as you can imagine, that the moment he learns these teenagers are helping the FBI and he's a teenage killer, he's gonna be like, you're next on my list. So because they're running out of time, they're like, okay, maybe if we interview one of the most notorious killers that have done kind of the same things, we can get some insight on the psychology of these guys and try to catch this killer that is still on the loose. So this is going to be a book perfect for people that love true crime. Obviously, it is also in the 80s, and I love cold cases. I love, you know, episodes where they review cold cases and they bring back old evidence that now they can process, like when DNA testing was not available, stuff like that. So I don't know, this is a lot of fun for me because I love true crime. So if you do, you're probably gonna have a blast too. Now it's time to go to the movies, and the first one is actually a strong one. One that might give you nightmares if you've never seen it before. The movies I have organized on release order, so we're gonna start with the oldest one in the list to the newest one, and the first one is Sleepaway Camp. Now, if you've never seen this movie, and if you've managed to stay spoiler-free when it comes to the ending, you're up for a treat, because the ending of this movie was one of the most shocking endings. Obviously, as you can imagine, the film focuses on a summer camp where kids are being killed. After a horrible boating accident kills her family, Angela moves in with her eccentric aunt and protective cousin Ricky. One summer, her aunt sends the kids to Camp Arawak. Soon after their arrival, bizarre, increasingly violent accidents claim the lives of various campers. So who is behind these murders? Who is loose in the camp trying to kill all of these different teenagers? If you love, you know, summer camp horror stories and you've never seen this movie, oh boy, you're in for a treat, because let me tell you, this ending and the resolution of everything had a lot of people gagged back in the day. This movie was quite ahead of its time, and when you see it, you will understand. This movie dared to do something that movies in the 80s were not doing. Honestly, this is one of those that you see it now and you think it's not such a big deal, but if you would have experienced it back in the day, you would have realized how different this movie was. When you start watching this movie, you might assume, oh, this is just your typical slasher movie, you know, with all the tropes of these movies and stuff. But when you get to the ending and you're getting to those like last scenes in the movie, you're gonna get you're gonna get slapped in the face, okay? You're gonna be gagged and gooped and surprised, and that's the whole point. So watch this movie if you've never seen it before. The next two movies that I'm going to talk about are actually both Australian movies, and I think these two movies might have been a little bit overlooked when they came out, so I'm here to remind you that they exist. And the first one is called Killing Ground. Now, this is a movie that I haven't also heard many people talk about, and it is a movie that I will tell you though, there are certain trigger warnings for this movie that I would, you know, maybe recommend you to check if you are sensitive when it comes to content warnings. So let me know if you want to know. You can DM me on Instagram or anywhere and I will let you know. A couple goes on a camping trip to take a break from their routine lives. There, they come across an empty campsite with a crying child and learn that something horrific has happened. Not many horror stories really portray kind of like a realistic take on what would happen if you go camping somewhere and there is bad people there that are willing to hurt you. This movie will basically stop you from wanting to go out camping, you know, because it feels kind of real, and that's part of the most disturbing thing of the movie. I think this is a gripping movie and it has a very interesting narrative structure, but like I said, might not be for everybody because it's quite raw and they do go places where I know many viewers might not be happy about but I did enjoy it because it just felt real, and in my opinion the violence in this movie is not really gratuitous, so it was really necessary to prove a point. It's kind of like what happened with the movie Speak No Evil, which a lot of people might think it was a little bit extreme. I'm talking about the original, obviously the OG is the only one you need, and I just think, you know, sometimes these movies are necessary because they just feel real. This movie also looks beautiful, like the landscape is beautiful, but then you have this impending doom on the character. So it is a contrast between beauty and evil, I guess, in this case. The story is cleverly told through different time jumps, but you understand everything that's going on very, very clearly. So if you've never watched this one, it's a good movie for summer if you don't mind the content warnings. And another similar movie, but this time it is Australian as well, but a post-apocalyptic movie. And you can find this one on Netflix and it's called Cargo. And when it came out, you know, not many people were raving about it. And then so one day I watched it when it came out and I was like, actually this movie is quite good. Because it's not just a movie about zombie apocalypse, it's also about the occupation of Australia and all of that. And it has kind of like a more of a commentary on that as well, kind of like an undertone, and I thought it was very cleverly done. And you also get tired sometimes of the typical zombie movies that are all the same. This one is not the same. A virus that turns humans into zombies within 48 hours spreads through Australia. Andy and Kay, a married couple, try to protect their daughter Rosie from the virus. It follows a couple and their baby traveling in remote Australia amid a deadly disease outbreak. The first act of the movie is basically presenting you with this grim picture of what happened, how did we get here, how did the outbreak happen, and what do we have to do now in order to survive, which is very important points that have to be kind of at some point explained or addressed in a zombie movie. If you ask me, like, I always love to know, why did the outbreak happen, how did it happen, you know, what are the chances of survival now, what do we have to do to survive this, because the rules might be different in every movie. And this movie gets really, really interesting when you discover what kind of creatures these zombies are and how they operate. And I don't want to spoil it for you, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I thought it was a very interesting take on zombies. And as I was saying, you know, despite this movie being about these married couple trying to save their daughter, it's also about the occupation of Australia. And you can kind of see those themes when you're watching the movie. They're a little bit more subtle, I guess, you know, it's not like really on your face, but you can see it. I was really entertained about this movie. I was really in it, living it, because it felt like one of those zombie movies that is kind of realistic, which is an interesting term to use for a zombie apocalypse, but it did feel real. It felt a little bit more grounded in reality, and I think that's why I was so mesmerized by this film. The cinematography, the direction, the acting, everything was good. So if you've never seen this movie, you're missing out. The next movie is a movie that might not be for everybody for different reasons. It's not because it's extremely violent and all of that, but because it's not for people that are afraid of heights. And that is the movie Fall. Now, when I went to see this movie, actually I had kind of conflicted feelings about it. One part of me really loved it, the other part not that much, but with time I have really learned to love this movie and appreciate it. Best friends Becky and Hunter love to push limits. However, after they climb 2,000 feet to the top of a remote abandoned radio tower, they find themselves stranded with no way down. Now their expert climbing skills are put to the ultimate test as they desperately fight to survive the elements, a lack of supplies, and the vertigo-inducing heights. The best movies where people are trapped are those where feel realistic. Like, one of my favorite ones is 47 Meters Down. I was skeptical going into that movie, but honestly, it was very claustrophobic for me as somebody that probably my worst fear is die by drowning, because I think it's probably really, really horrible. So you will never catch me in the bottom of the sea. But this one, is fairly realistic when it comes to the concept, because sometimes people would do anything for views and for their videos, and they might climb one of these towers, which in this case is a tower which was closed off, like people should not have been able to go in there, but they break in to get in there, and of course that's their own fault. So it is realistic in that way, because we see YouTubers doing pranks and doing dares and things that are putting them at risk all the time. So in that regard, this movie is realistic. However, as the girls spend more and more time in this tower trapped, it becomes a little bit more surreal. But I still think this movie creates a lot of tension, and it's gonna give people a lot of fear of heights. And it can get very, very gruesome as well. And it has interesting plot twists as well. I think the images are quite spectacular, because obviously you're seeing a lot from the point of view of the girls that are at the top of this tower. I also really like some of the creative ways where the girls are trying to come up with a way to come down. I thought it was original in some regards, and in others they were a little bit predictable, but it is a movie that I think is great for summer. And like I said, if you're not afraid of heights, which then you might suffer a little bit too much with this movie, because even I got a little bit of vertigo, but I think this movie is great for summer. So if you've never seen it before, I do recommend it. Let's go to number 5, and we have Knock at the Cabin. So this is a movie that I really enjoyed. Now, I do prefer the book. The book is The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, and this has been the first of his books that has been adapted into a movie. It is an apocalyptic psychological horror film written, directed, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan. Andrew, Eric, and their adopted daughter Wen travel to the countryside for a vacation, but their family's time together is interrupted by 4 armed strangers demanding an unthinkable sacrifice. So we have this couple with their daughter spending time in a cabin that they own, as they've done in the past before, and one day there are some strangers that come knocking at their door. They want to get in because they want to talk to them, and they want them to make an impossible decision. So this movie is all about the strangers trying to get in, what happens when they come in, and it is a very claustrophobic movie. It is a movie that might make you mad at times, not gonna lie. I love the performance of Dave Bautista in this movie. I think he was absolutely fantastic. Rupert Grint is also in the movie, which is another plus for me, not gonna lie. And it's very interesting because you are basically trapped in this cabin with these people, with the couple, the daughter, and with these 4 strangers. You don't know why they're there, why they picked this couple in particular. Was it random? So there's a lot for you to discover. The movie might not give you all the answers that you are looking for, but it does put you in a position where you have to ask yourself a lot of questions about things, and I think it's done quite smartly. Like I said, I still prefer the book though, but the movie is really great. My only kind of, criticism to the movie is that a lot of the really gruesome, bloody bits are kind of cut off. They are off camera. And I know it's because M. Night doesn't really want to make really bloody, gory movies. That's not his thing. But this movie kind of required it, so I didn't like the fact that he did cut a lot of those parts, but that maybe makes it better for you guys if you don't like to see a lot of blood and gore. Then this movie is not showing it like in close-ups and really on your face. And last but not least, I have a movie that I'm aware is not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's great for summer. It's kind of reminiscent of Friday the 13th, and that is In a Violent Nature. Now, this movie took a big risk because they did something unique and very creative, which is they created a movie that is solely kind of given to you from the point of view of the killer. Imagine if you would see Friday the 13th from the point of view of the killer only. And I think that's very interesting because you don't get to hear what the other characters are saying or are planning unless our killer is watching them. So I thought that was a very interesting and unique take. I watched it and I really loved it. This Canadian slasher film follows a mute killer who is accidentally resurrected from his grave in the Ontario wilderness by a group of teenagers whom he then begins stalking and murdering. The events depicted are largely observed from the killer's perspective. So you know the drill. We have a group of teenagers that are being irresponsible and they end up waking up an old killer that was dead and buried, and he comes back from the dead basically, kind of like Jason every time, and he targets these teenagers. Now, there's a lot of beautiful shots of the killer walking through the woods slowly, and it's just so much fun to see, to be honest. Like, I would have never thought of making a movie only from the point of view of the killer. It's almost like you're watching a video game, kinda. And I gotta tell you though, the deaths here are very, very gory. Almost or kinda Terrifier level of times. There is a death scene in this movie that I will never ever forget. So that one is definitely Terrifier level. So just putting it out there in case that is maybe a little bit too much for you. This was a great way of giving us a slasher movie that is more artsy. There's a little bit more art and cinematography and less kind of mindless talk and dialogue as you normally expect from a slasher. So I thought it was quite unique, and I know not all of you might give this one a chance because of the level of gore. Perhaps it's not your thing, but if you don't mind the gore and you've never seen this movie, I do encourage you to give it a chance. And it even have some funny bits, to kind of break the tension from all the gore, so you also get a little bit of fun in it. Alright guys, so those were my 6 book and 6 movie recommendations of summer horror books and movies that you can check out during the summer. I hope that you found something in this video that maybe you have never heard of before, or that you had on your bucket list and now you know you need to get to it. So give me more recommendations in the comments. Tell me which ones are some of your favorite books and favorite horror movies that are perfect for the summer. They don't have to specifically take place in summer or in pools and summer camps, but those that are perfect for the summer season, summer holidays, or just to go on holiday. Let me know down below. I do hope that you enjoyed this video and the recommendations, and I'll see you all as always in our next coffee time. Bye.